Hello there and welcome back to Four Tims in a Podcast. You join us on the evening of the 22nd of September, the day after Celtic were victorious in the Glasgow Derby as they beat Partick Thistle 4-0 at Firhill. 2 goals in the first half that came from Yang and Liam Scales were followed by 2 goals in the second half that came from Sebastian Tounekti and Luke McCowan. It saw Celtic progress to the semi-final where they'll face 11th place Rangers. We have you to progressing to the first cup final of the season. So it's myself, Darren, here with Tony and Andy. So we'll discuss that game, who stood out again, and I'm sure there'll be some off the park stuff we talk about as well. And then we'll do a wee preview for Celtic's first Europa League game of the season, which sees the Celts head to Belgrade on Wednesday to play Red Star. And we'll sort of discuss that and maybe give a wee prediction for that and how we think the Europa League campaign might go on as a whole. But Tony, I'll come to you. It was pretty similar to Rugby Park in a way, where a lot of people after the game were speaking about Sebastian Tounekti. It's 2 games in a row that he's really excited people and just been really exciting to watch. I think you mentioned it last week when he says it's just a player that sort of gets you off your feet and you're always excited to see what he's going to do, and he kept up that good run of form with an impressive performance in getting his first goal for the club yesterday.
Absolutely, I think he's been excellent. Obviously, it's only 2 games in, so you don't want to go too far in one direction and just say, he's the best. You know, it's no long before people will be giving, he's better than Kuhn, he's better than Jota, and people kind of jump to these kind of mad conclusions. I just think he's a good player, and he's exciting to watch. Gets the ball and drives, that does me. That's exactly what I want to see for a winger. And that's what he says he would do. I think I mentioned that previously. So delighted for him. I thought it was a really, really well worked goal, from kind of them attacking to us getting the ball up the pitch quickly. Great link up with Iniacho. And it's a good finish. I actually bet him. I think I said that. Last year I went through a spell. I just bet Nicholas Kuhn to score, and for him to score 2 goals and 3 goals just because he was in good form. So I thought I'll start with Tounekti. So I think it's a hat-trick in Belgrade, then your Uncle Tony's on to a winner. But no, I was delighted for him. Delighted for Iniacho as well. As I say, he's a great assist. But yeah, really professional, comfortable League Cup semi-final, quarter-final victory, and it's exactly what you want. I think Roger says the team are going to get better, and I think they will. It's just a case of kind of getting more games under our belt, and they're obviously coming thick and fast now. So yeah, I think it's a positive, and amongst a lot of other kind of noise that's going on at the moment, but without a doubt, Tounekti's a massive bonus for us.
I thought it was a really good performance from him again. As you say, League Cup quarter final, you're always just looking to get to the next round, and we done it in some style, and it was with about as relative ease as we could have. I thought that we controlled the full game, and I know Benjamin Nygreen's not been everybody's cup of tea the last few weeks, but I think he get 2 assists in the first half, and then Tounekti getting on the score sheet as well. As you say, good assist from Iniacho, and then even the 4th goal, I thought that Balikwisha, when he came off the bench, done really well for that to sort of hound the Partick Thistle defender, which led to McCowan getting through and putting the ball in the net to seal the victory. But I thought it was a really routine as it could get for Celtic, and I just thought, delighted to keep that sort of run going. We're obviously going to have games coming out of ears in the next few weeks in terms of having cup games, Europa games and league games as well, of course. But Andy, what was your thoughts on it? As we sort of mentioned, a pretty routine victory, but great to see the likes of Tounekti and Iniacho and a few others really stepping up and making their mark in this team.
As with all cup games, it's the result that's the most important thing in sort of knockout football. And if you can couple that with a great performance, then brilliant. People have been quick to criticise, and to be honest, rightly so at times, the football that we've been playing and things like that. And it seemed that hopefully it's the start of a sort of change to sort of playing some positive stuff again and being nice on the eye. Tounekti was really, really good. A bit like Tony says, I'm hesitant to overstate things like that because I just think it puts unnecessary pressure on. He started really, really well. I hope he's that up. I agree. It's great to see a winger just want to take his man on and want to make things happen and really make defenders second guess themselves and teams sort of step off them. That's just a winger in confidence, and it's good to see that, and hopefully he keeps that up. And it gives you that different dimension. Obviously, for the left-hand side, we've been so used to having Maeda out there, who we all know his qualities. I don't need to explain that, but having something so different out on the left-hand side just brings a different dynamic, and it brings these questions and brings that sort of adaptability that you want. And in terms of like, sort of longer term thinking, like more difficult games, these sort of having the options out there it gives you something to change in a game. It gives you a different approach. Obviously, we'll come on to Belgrade as an example of that, but Europe's a great example of when one's not working, you've got the alternative to try it. And it's not a like for like change out there. It's something totally different. So really, really happy with him. I mean, the team came out. I know people are, to be fair, team selections are always provoke some reactions here, there, and everywhere. But I've seen some people making an arse themselves saying hey, Nacho would never be starting at Partick, and then needless to say, then he actually starts at Partick. Tierney, obviously, you get 90 minutes out of him, which I think is great, to be honest. That's mentally, that'll be huge for him. I think Rodgers said that, but it really will, just getting through an entire game, no injuries, coming through it unscathed, that's massive. And hopefully he can build on that as well. The young boy Donovan, again, brilliant. I like what I'm seeing for him. And it's nothing too flashy, but doing the basics really well was something some of your players struggle for it sometimes, particularly our young players when they come through, and he seems to be doing that. And if anything, he's really staking his claim to be that Alistair Johnston understudy and sort of take that off of Tony Ralston. And obviously right back's an area we've all spoke about. We spoke about it in the summer that we felt we were light in. If anything should have happened to Ralston, it did. And fortunately now we seem to have found somebody in the academy that can make a difference in the team and can make a mark, and obviously that's not happened for a long, long while. So again, really, really positive. Yang coming in, I was going to say you know what you get with Yang, but I suppose that's the problem. You don't know what you get with Yang because sometimes you score goals and other times you look like he's never seen a football before. But I think his goal, he didn't even know it went in, to be honest with you, so he sort of turned away. But he's Yang, and I don't envisage he'll be here beyond January, but I thought he done decent. Sinisalo again, I seem to. I don't think he had a save to make, so I'm not going to wax lyrical about him. But at the same time, he's not your sale, and everybody listening knows we build our attacks right for the back. They come for the keeper. So having a keeper that's confident and wants to make things happen, and he doesn't sort of hesitate when the ball is important and important to the way we want to play. So I really happy there. But I thought it was a good performance across the board. Probably the biggest surprise for me was Bernardo actually coming the first sub off the bench. I was beginning to question what the fuck he'd ever done to Rodgers and what he had to do to go in the park, but he came on, done reasonably well. Balikwisha, again, people are just fucking quick to jump on players, and especially wingers, like, notoriously in world football the most inconsistent position there is for a player. And because he's not coming in, beating three men, sticking the top corner, he's shite and he's this and that. Like, and he was played out of position his first couple of games as well, like, when been played out right at times and stuff like that. So again, reasonable for him, done really well for the goal. Obviously, I think he was credited with the assist to McCown as well. So really good performance, putting it together. And I think there's a lot to be happy about on the part, with the players sort of stepping up and taking the backing off the fans and taking the backing for the manager and sort of charging on together.
As you say, definitely a lot of positives to take from it. Probably you're right to say not to get too ahead of yourself, but even what you say is Kieran Tierney completing 90 minutes as well, an obvious good result for us there. So as I say, it does leave Celtic into the semi-final where we'll face Rangers. Tony, happy with the draw? I mean, St Mirren are 4th place and Motherwell are 7th place, so we've got the easiest draw out of the lot that we could have at this stage when we'll take on 11th place Rangers.
I'm afraid you're not going to get any overconfidence for me. I can understand, obviously, the need for people to get a good laugh at Rangers, who are 11th at the moment in the table. I don't think it'll be an easy game. I have no idea who their manager will be by then, if they'll have stuck with Russell Martin or changed it up. But yeah, it's a game I'm kind of just planning putting to the back of my head. I won't be at it. I'll watch it on the telly. It would be a great win to get and give us a good opportunity to win the cup. But I think St Mirren and Motherwell will probably fancy it. They'll probably fancy whoever they get in the final, whoever one goes through. I think Motherwell have had a really good start to the season. I think St Mirren have been getting better and better under Stephen Robinson. So I think I think Rangers will be quite a tough game. I can't remember the last time we played them at Hampden and absolutely battered them. It might have been 2018. Recent games, I think maybe a goal in it or penalties, from what I can remember. Thinking back even to Big Ange, 2-1 in the League Cup final, 1-0 the Scottish Cup semi-final. last year penalties under Lennon, I think 1-0 League Cup final, and we kind of get beat 8-1. So yeah, I think it's going to be probably a close game if I'm totally honest. But look, if we're going to win the cup, there's a good chance we would have had to have played them anyway. So it'll be interesting to see the state of both kind of teams and clubs at that point. Both are kind of undergoing protests at the minute. It'll be interesting to see where that leads. I think if there's still protests going into that game, I think whoever wins that game, the protests will probably die down. So this is a kind of unrelated point. We were kind of talking off air about obviously the ongoing protest stuff. But I think stuff like that, like if you beat Rangers, that can really kibosh a lot of these things purely because they play such an important part in people's kind of support of Celtic is beating Rangers, which I can understand to a degree, but I just don't think they should be the benchmark. But we'll talk about that more when it comes to the protest on Sunday. But look, you take who you get. I'm just glad we're in the next round, and hopefully we can get through, but there's just still so much football to be played before we get there, and a lot of really important games domestically and in Europe.
I definitely will cover it in a lot more detail as it gets closer. I think it'll be the weekend of the 1st or the 2nd of November. I imagine it will be the Sunday, the 2nd of November. Andy, I'll just get your quick thoughts on it. As Tony said, these games, as much as we are dominant domestically in terms of trophies, they've been quite close recently, and even but last season they probably did get the better of us, just if you sort of look at it on the basis of the games. But would you have happy to get them in the semi-final? As Tony said, if we're going to win this, it was likely we're going to face them in the semi-final or the final. But do you think this will be a good time to come up against them?
Hard question, really, isn't it, given how fucking brutal we've been? No, just this season, obviously, with the exception against Thistle, but again, in games against them and derbies against them, we've not been up to the mark. Fortunately, when they've came round for the most part, it's not overly mattered in terms of the sort of long season and the season goals. This one obviously will. It'll be slightly different, but I'm with Tony. I'm fairly confident we'll beat anybody most weeks now who are set up reasonably well. But then again, they couldn't run a bath at the minute, so you see, you were going to have to probably face them eventually, and that's just the nature of things. And a question for closer at the time. See how we do away in Belgrade. See how we do the next couple of weeks up until then. But I couldn't say either way, to be honest. Like, I don't think they're great. I really don't. But I've seen us throw some absolute fucking stinkers. I've seen us struggle to break down Kairat Almaty. So could I say with any certainty that I fancy going to Hampden and beating them? Who'll boot us off the park? No, not really. But as I say, it could change close at the time, and hopefully we put a run of good performances together and the team start to come together and play how I know and we all know that we can. I think that's what it comes down to. Like if you've got our team on song, then absolutely I'd be taking us against anybody, but I've just not seen anything recently and anything against them recently that would indicate that's going to happen. So I think it's a question for closer to the time, but aye, it's one of them. We'll cross that bridge when we come to them.
Yep, definitely. But this time next month we'll get a more detailed preview. But we'll go into the protest as it's a sort of ongoing issue at the moment. Last week at Kilmarnock it was a delayed entry protest that saw the fans enter on the 12th minute. This week saw a more visual protest where I think it was about 5,000 of the no entry banners with Chris Mackay, Michael Nicholson and Peter Lawwell on them to get a real visual protest against the current board. Tony, I'll come to you. What was your thoughts on it? Obviously it's now, but since we've last been on, the official sort of collective groups and fan media and supporters clubs is now known as Celtic Fans Collective. What did you make of the latest bit of action on Sunday that saw that, as I say, a more visual protest, and what was your reaction to the camera panning to Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay to see them just sort of looking at their phones, not even acknowledging it?
Yeah, well, I think the no entry sign with people's faces, that's obviously been getting about for a while. I remember it back in 2020, where it was Lawwell's face and Neil Lennon's face, and by God, did they two need removed for Celtic at the time. But I thought it was wet. It looked good. I thought it got the point across. I think for Nicholson and Mackay, the only thing I would rather they'd done than look at their phones was to maybe have laughed at the fans. But I thought it was a perfect image of them just not paying attention to the fans, not caring what the fans had to say. I don't know, maybe they were putting a bet on just before the game started. Look, even I would defend that. I can understand that. You maybe forgot to put a line on just before the game starts, but I don't think I've ever seen the camera pan to they two and they're on their phones simultaneously. So it's probably, look, apparently Celtic have brought in some kind of new PR department. Maybe they've been told to not pay attention and just kind of look away. I thought it just summed it up. I just thought that's the image there. Thousands of Celtic fans protesting and you just look away. Just bury your head in the sand. Don't engage. Don't look at them. Ignore them. And I don't think that's a surprise. I think if it was up to them, the Celtic fans wouldn't be there. They would just ban them if they could and stop these protests. But for me, I think what I've learned, again, as I said, I was going to stop doing this, but kind of engaging with people on Facebook. And we put up, this was another display, and I think Andy's confirmed it was actually a display by a supporters club, and it said Lawwell's legacy, and it was all the absolute shite that have papped us at European competitions. And some of the responses on our page, just to post in this picture, I think I put something, Lawwell's legacy, European humiliation. I don't think anybody can argue with that. I mean, the European results have been diabolical. But some of the responses have been just unbelievable. Somebody says that we wanted to spend 70 or 80 million. Nobody's ever said that. Somebody else says about David Murray. I think it was the same guy, but do you want David Murray as the owner? Nobody's ever said that. Somebody says, would you rather the 49ers as the owners? Nobody's ever said that. Then it's the usual. Entitled, the guy says, we're never going to get to the knockout stage of the Champions League, even though we did 8 months ago. But there's just seems to be this kind of section of fans. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion and we're entitled to kind of argue back, but they just seem really angry at the idea of anybody protesting against the board, and it's kind of, we get called woke. I don't know why. I've a debate a guy says we were woke. I don't feel that's today with the kind of corporate governance argument about Celtic and changing processes and transfer strategy and becoming better and removing this board, but hey ho. But some of the comments were just bizarre, horrible pricks, entitled pricks, spoiled brats. There's another guy, I think he deleted his comments, I'm assuming he must have been pissed, but he was just rambling on, and it said that the old kind of remember the 90s thing, you get that as well. That's a comparison I've never understood. Things were shite in the 90s, so don't try and make things better in 30 years later, or 2020s, whatever you call it. And I find that there's no real correlation there. And people always say, oh, you're obviously too young for the 90s, but my dad's 60 now. He fucking wants this board out. He can see these things. I know guys 60s, 70s that want change, that lived through the 90s. It's not a legitimate argument. But again, it seems as well, like, me and friend of the pod Melbourne were talking about this. People are really against protest because they don't want the Hunts to laugh at them. That's what I think it is. They don't want the Scottish media who are out to get us to have anything bad to talk about Celtic. So there's this kind of, I guess it's a kind of paranoia whereby if you say anything against this Celtic board, you're putting Celtic in harm's way and we just can't have that. And they go out to bat for this board who don't give a flying fuck about them. Let's make that abundantly clear. And it's just, they seem to just get really worked up. And they just come out with all sorts of stuff entitled yada yada yada, and they kind of create scenarios in their head whereby there's not. I think the Celtic fans collective, all their statements have been perfect. They've continually said they're going to back the team. So first off was the 12-minute stand outside process. You're not backing the team, but then on that statement it says we are going to go in and really back the team. The team wins. So they're saying, why don't... So the first kind of thing they come back with, why don't you just protest in the ground? So people protest during the game. I see one comment. Our players had to pick up the paper from the side of the pitch. Oh, fuck me. These poor multi-millionaires had to pick up a couple of bits of paper. I mean, come on. They're no school kids. Like, you don't need to fucking coddle them, you know? It's mad. But it's as I say, these people have this kind of defence ready for the board. Even, they just, I've seen somebody say was it the Green-Eyed Monster Brigade or some kind of nonsense. It wasn't even them that put up the banner, the Lawwell's Legacy banner, but people just have these things in their head where they've created an argument and they're just going to stick to it. And no matter what we say and how we try and argue against it, they just have this idea that this is just a bunch of entitled wee Neds and these people are they're not there to back the team, even though the team are backed. They won 4-0, they were backed very well by the majority of fans there, or by every fan there by the looks of it. But the more, and people won't like this part, but see the more I read social media and obviously you engage with people, this is the way I see it. Now, I think everybody's doing great in terms of the Celtic fans collective, and I really hope we get some sort of change. But I think reading what a lot of people say, there's one thing that is going to drive change at Celtic. It's the main thing for these people. It's very important to these people. It's the way that they would then want change at Celtic. And that thing is Rangers. It's all about beating Rangers. It's all about Rangers having more money than Rangers. And it's just this really strange thing whereby on one hand we say they're a new club, a basket case, a laughing stock, and then on the other hand it's just all about just beating them. It's not about Club Brugge or Ajax or Bodø/Glimt. It's not about trying to compete with these kind of teams that are run really well in a European scale. They come up with some brilliant European results. It's about going after this kind of club that were battered senseless for years. It's all just about beating them, and I can't wrap my head around it. I don't see why you wouldn't want to be even better. Well, continuing the domestic dominance, but just everything, it seems, guys just coming back constantly. Or you could end up like Rangers. You're like, nobody's saying to spend all the money in the bank and go fucking nuts. I've said this before, that's not the aim of this protest. And then it's just one qualifying, you're throwing the toys out the pram. There's another guy saying he's going to protest the protesters. Like, I find that incredible that you would go up and go, know what? I'm going to go and bat for Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay, Dermot Desmond. They're my people. These are my friends, and I'm going to go and bat for them. Now, unless they are actually your friends, then I could maybe see it. Maybe you would stick up for them. But it just seems to all kind of evolve around this. Oh, we just need to make sure we're ahead of Rangers. And the kind of financial thing, we've got 77 million in the bank, we'll get more than Rangers. And it's nonsense. It's just total nonsense. And for me, I think the protests have gone very well. As I say, they've been well articulated. Nobody's been said, if you don't join in, you're this, that, the next thing. I don't think anybody on the side of wanting to remove the board have been particularly angry about it or offensive about it. But I think the people that are backing the board, they just seem to have lost their run of themselves. Just fucking mad fucking abuse you get because you want the board removed. And so it's a kind of bit of a semi-rant, I suppose, but I think there's only one way I think all these people would kind of change their opinion, and that would be if Rangers won the league or had some kind of sustained period of dominance, and we don't want that. There's nobody advocating for that. That would be a disaster and would probably take a bit of time to kind of recover from, but I think it just seems that so many people are just kind of just take what the board give them and just kind of settle for that. I find it quite sad, I must admit. I think Celtic can be so much better than they currently are. And then obviously people say, what about the domestic dominance? But you would have done well not to win most of the league titles. I mean, you'd had to have really collapsed not to have won some of the titles we've won. Don't get me wrong, the domestic stuff has been brilliant. I've loved every minute of it. But I think we can be better. And I think being better in Europe with a better transfer strategy and a better kind of football department means that you'll be better in Europe. You'll also continue to dominate domestically. I don't see why people can't see the correlation. Like, I think they paid 12 million in corporation tax. Now, obviously, you need to pay your taxes, yada, yada, yada. But surely if you invested a bit more money in the kind of football side of things, the structures, if you had data analyst teams all over the world and scouts all over the world that are working 24/7 in the Americas and Asia and Europe, and you're trying to, in England, and you're trying to make sure you're doing all your analysis, all your scouting to make sure you get the best talent. And then you get maybe, say, for example, another Matt O'Reilly or something like that from the low divisions. Like, nobody's saying you need to go and spend 10 million every time. Like, if you're out and you're saying, look, this is the strategy and it's working, that's fine. But instead, we just seem to be hoarding this obscene amount of cash, and they still haven't told us what it's for. So, again, for the Celtic board, like, they could easily stop all this. Like, I think they could easily put a stop to it. It would be very easy for them to give up Lawwell, who apparently is leaving anyway, probably remove Nicholson, and then come out to the fans and say, look, we made a total arse of recruitment, we're sacking, say, the football doctor, Tisdale, we're changing that full department, we're really sorry, let's get behind the team and see how well we can do. We'll strengthen in January, and say they gave Rodgers a new contract. Like, that would appease most fans, I would think. Now, obviously, we would still want more changes, but you would probably be in the minority by that stage. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know why I bother engaging with people on Facebook. No, I'm replying, I'm going, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? But I just can't help myself, so... so that's my kind of thought on the protest. I think the guys are doing a great job. They're putting in a lot of work. Credit to them. But I just think a lot of people have it in their head. They've got this kind of argument that isn't true, that's just totally made up against the people doing these kind of protests. And I don't know if anybody's for listening. Social media is probably not the best place to do it. I'd love to have somebody on who's a supporter of the board and debate them on the podcast. I think that'd be brilliant if we could get somebody. If there's anybody listening to this that's a supporter of the board, fuck you. No, feel free to get in touch. And if you want to come on and debate, I think that would be good. I think that's the only way we're going to kind of get through to people, because social media debate is not it. Because even if you say something, people have already got their answers kind of prepared before you put your bit in. So yes, anybody that wants to debate, we're open to that.
There you go, on open challenge to anybody that wants to come on and debate Tony. I'm sure that would make great listening, and I would welcome it as well. Knowing how much this man's watched Donald Trump over the last few years, I'm sure it would be very entertaining. Andy, what about you? What's your sort of quick thoughts on the protest? Obviously still early days for the Celtic Fans Collective, but as Tony says, I would echo his comments about everything that's been put out so far being sort of on the money. And like we mentioned it last week, the first 2 weeks of this protest, that you were never going to get the 2 or 3 that were on the banners yesterday walking up to the away stand and handing in their resignations. It's going to be a sort of slow burner and take a good bit of time to get noticeable change probably. But what was your thoughts on that and just sort of ongoing action that's happening at the moment?
I think it was really well done. I think it achieved what it set out to achieve. People are still talking about it, and saying any good protest is exactly that, I suppose. Then, I mean, the Celtic board doing what the Celtic board doing, they've just teed up. You couldn't have written a better response to that. It is somebody like yourselves who want rid of them. I couldn't have asked them to do anything more perfect just to show the total disrespect they have for the fans, where they're just fanning about on their phone both at the same time. Probably a new tactic for their fucking PR team. I don't know who's told them to do that or whatever, but either that or the boardroom group chat was on fire. You couldn't have scripted that any better for a sack the board point of view. I agree with a lot of what Tony says, to be honest, and even at that, and all these people as well, and we've been fucking banging this drum for years and years and years. I know a lot of what Tony says is about the footballing department, and he's right, and it's about the signings. But even if you get back to the days where we were talking about Ange, and when we looked back on Lennon and how he ended up there again, and Dyla and everything else, we were fucking banging the drum for years and years and years about the just total lack of preparation that the club do, the total lack of structure that the club do, the nepotism that's riddled all the way through the club, and just the total disrespect they treat fans with. And it's funny, like, even I was obviously, when the draw came out, just to jump on the back of what Tony's saying about certain people online in their social medias and revelling in this because they think it suddenly makes them a Celtic superfan, and everybody who says a bad word against the club isn't a real fan, they're a hun in disguise and blah 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 blah. But anyway, so when that came out, straight away I'm seeing tweets about people, that'll be everybody wanting to join the home cup ticket scheme again and all this just utter garbage. As if, do you think people would have had the foresight to think that we'll not play them in the cup in any of the cups this year? Do they really believe that? Is that where they're at? I mean, the irony of this is these people think it'll make it easier for them to get a ticket, when in reality the board will just fuck many of them onto corporate and they'll not get one anyway unless they're willing to pay £2. But that's aside the point. Just things like that though, like how the way they now treat the match going fan, if you're no paying exorbitant amounts of money to sit in corporate boxes, they don't care about you. You're just another number to them. And that is riddled the entire way through the club. It's riddled with the lack of communication, the devaluing of season tickets, the prices getting fucked up through the roof as much as they possibly can. I've said it before, 3 kits a season every season, just hooring every penny out of you that you possibly can. It goes more than just the footballing department. It goes that they go against everything the club is supposed to be, and they do it year on year on year. So it's not just about the football; it's about everything else that goes along with that. But I found that funny when that's what people's argument was about the home cup ticket scheme, because they're obviously not been paying attention with the amount of buses that will be leaving for Partick that day. But Dan, I think nobody was under any illusions that it was going to be Yako stick a couple of banners up and they'll be gone next week. I don't think anybody thought that. I think it's just obviously, I know and you know, and most people listening to this will know that it's a lot more planned and a lot more thought out than that. Part of me, don't get me wrong, does fear that Tony's probably right, and a lot of people, when push comes to shove, just care about being the biggest fish in a small pond, and that's unfortunate. But some of us have got bigger visions for Celtic than that. Some of us want to see more than that. Some of us pay a lot of money to go to European games and want to see the club give the best possible opportunity, and not just fuck their wages up every year and fuck their bonuses up every year instead. But I think it's going really well. I think everything that seems to be coming out it just shows you how angry fans are in the direction that we're pushing in, and I think in the long run, hopefully it can pay off, and we can get to sort of where we want to be and get the football club in the best possible place. But as I said, Darren, I think the protests have been really well thought out, really well done, and I think it's good to see so many fans on board with it. I think you've seen that with the number that obviously stood outside for 12 minutes at Kilmarnock, which is a hard thing to do for a lot of people who've been gone their entire lives. And again, when you've seen how many of them were held up at Firhill, I think that sort of speaks to the levels of anger and just how many people are on board with us here. And to be honest, I'm not like Tony. I just don't have the temperament to be sitting arguing with some guy on Facebook who's just thinks everybody's a closet Hun and thinks Huns have made up tens of thousands of accounts and all the rest of it. So, aye, but positive, and I think we're hopefully pushing in the right direction, Dan, which is, I think, is the main thing here.
Aye, like I says, I just hope it continues, and I think you're right. If anybody that did cancel the home cup scheme, I think they were well entitled to, as I've said on here before. Some did, some didn't. Everybody has their own reasons for doing that, but look, I think there was some pictures floating about today of how many tickets were available for the Europa League games, which I know will go on general sale tomorrow, but it looked like there wasn't a massive uptake, which, look, as you say, Andy, it might cost somebody a semi-final ticket, but the whole sort of movement and what it hopes to achieve is much bigger than one semi-final against Rangers, and if people want to revel in people missing that game, then they're the issue, and they're the ones that are, to be honest, they're the problem there. If a semi-final against Rangers means more to you than the way the club's run and how it's progressing in Europe, then that's why the board gets away with it for as long as they have done. And we'll see how that goes in terms of European sales, etc. But if anybody is thinking about missing that semi just because of cancelled the home cup scheme, all I'd say is it is one of the things, and the movement's much bigger, and I think everybody needs to keep going in that sort of collective train of thought even, and hopefully achieve the changes that a lot of us are looking for at the moment. But speaking of changes, we've got Europa League action this season after a few years in the Champions League. Tony, I'll come to you. We go into this league phase, and the first game is a pretty tricky away tie to Red Star Belgrade. It's one of the places that's notorious for its atmosphere, and I was just looking there, they've played 7 league games and won all 7, scored 30 goals, conceded 5, and they won the Belgrade derby at the weekend there, so they're in red hot form. Pretty similar to us though, they've had a strong domestic start, but they would have been disappointed to be knocked out of the Champions League. They get knocked out by Paphos from Cyprus, so what are you expecting from this one and sort of Europa League in general? As I say, pretty tough start to life in the Europa League for Celtic.
See, to be honest, I haven't got a bastard clue. How's that for some analysis? I have no idea what to expect for the Europa League. I don't really know the strength of most of their opponents. If you put me in the spot to name 8 opponents, I probably couldn't do it. And I have no idea what to expect. You would probably favour the home team. You've said on good form. European travel, we're usually quite poor. We're never really good away from home in Europe. If we could get a draw, I think we'd be off to a very good start. You want a prediction?
I go for it. And who would your sort of front three be? As obviously Maeda was on the bench yesterday, but I'd expect him to come back in. Who do you think will sort of partner him in that front three?
I'd just swap him for Yang, and then I would put Kelechi up front with Tounekti. I think that's a pretty quick, effective front three that can cause trouble. Midfield, I would probably go Hatate. Engels, Bernardo, but he's definitely not going to do that. He'll play McGregor, Hatate and Negren probably. The back four, I think kind of picks itself. Tierney, Vickers, Scales and Donovan. I think Donovan's been quite good. And then in goals, Kasper Schmeichel. Also, just I'm always one for giving Scales it's a bit of stick, but was Cameron Carter-Vickers drinking at the weekend? What was that all about? We kept taking mad touches in the ball.
I said that to you. I was just saying that I say I put that in our group chat that I hope he didn't get drug tested, because don't get me wrong, fucking Scale still tried to forearm smash Tony Watt, but Vickers was at it yesterday as well.
I thought he seemed as if he was all over the place, but I think that's it. I think I'll go for 2 each. I'll go for a Sebastian Tounekti double, but again, it's one of these games. I say this quite a lot. I don't think any result would be a surprise. If we can get out of there without a defeat, I think it would be a very strong start to the European campaign.
Andy, what about you? Out of the 4 of us that did a pod, you probably know the most about European football, so what are you expecting from this? As I say, from the outside, when I was looking up Red Star, it looks like they're in a strong run domestically, and off the back of a big derby win, I'm sure they'll be flying into this with confidence, knowing that Celtic aren't the greatest travellers either.
I think to their point of view, they've highly a time to play us, and to draw us away from home is the best thing you could do against Celtic. Obviously, we know how we are when we travel. There's good experience in their team. I know. I think Marko Arnautovic, who most people that are listening, I would think would know, is playing up front for them. Obviously, Inter Milan, West Ham, blah blah blah. Like, very, very good player. Obviously, he's getting on a bit now, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't cause some problems. So there's good experience in, listen, it's been spoken about for long enough how hard a place it is to go and away in Belgrade, and I'm never confident with Celtic travelling against anybody. I think I've been to and fro about the front line. Obviously Tounekti will play, but part of me thinks, will he put him out right and Maeda out left and Iheanacho through the middle, or Maeda out right, or will he just put Maeda through the middle? I'm not 100% sure. I can't really make my mind up on it. I think at the moment I'm probably Tounekti left, Maeda right, and Iheanacho through the middle. I think the rest of the team, you know what Rodgers is going to do. And again, don't get me wrong, I think if they're at home, they're going to be wanting to press the issue and try and get the win, and you're going to get space. You're going to get an opportunity for Hatate or Nygren to put the ball in behind, for Tounekti to go into, or Maeda to go into, and you've seen Iheanacho's quality in terms of one-touch passing and holding the ball up and bringing his wide men into play. So I absolutely think we'll get chances. It's just we do that thing where it's never one we can see that's fucking goals in bunches in Europe. So I don't know what to make it. I'll be positive, Dan. I'll say a 3-1 win. Maeda, Hatate and Tounekti, right? I'll be really positive about it. But I am with Tony. I think it's... if you could tell me any score in the world tomorrow, if you were predicting the future, I could believe every single one of them, because I've seen it all, and I just don't know where we're at against a team in the continent at the minute. But hoping for as positive a result as possible.
Aye, I'm sort of over the Champions League disappointment now, so I'm looking forward to Europa League. I mean, 6 months ago, I told you I'd have thought we'd probably been in the top 2 or 3 of the league phase, but now I don't know if we'll be in the top 8 or the bottom 8. It could go really either way. Like, I think there's been a few domestic games we've played this season where we've been really poor, and at the same time we're still playing well enough domestically. And like Europa League, it does give us that sort of benefit where it is a couple of levels down from Champions League, and we equipped ourselves well in the Champions League last year, so if we're on our game, we should have enough to navigate the sort of league phase to get some sort of qualification. I'm not sure what that'll look like, whether it'll be playoff or whether we can go for top 8. That would be nice to skip around and get to the last 16, but I'm not overly confident going here. As like Belgrade, I know it's a sort of bucket list for a lot of people in terms of going and feeling that atmosphere and being around the city, but I think we get 2,500 tickets, but I think almost 95% of them I've seen people trying to pass on and selling them as spares, so I'll be interested to see what the actual allocation that we've taken over looks like. But I think the front three is the sort of interesting one. Like the midfield, I think it's a bit stale at the moment, and I would be making changes. I thought Luke McCowan done really well when he came on yesterday. I know it's Partick Thistle, but I thought they came on and had a real positive impact, but I thought I just can't see Rodgers changing it. He seems to be sort of set on this McGregor, Hatate, Nygren midfield three at the moment. As Tony said, defence picks itself, keeper's got to be Schmeichel, and then front three, I think Tounekti, I play him at the left just because I know Rodgers actually, when he was asked about Balikwisha on his pre-match press conference last week, he said that playing him out on the right was a mistake and that it was on him. So I think the fact that Tounekti's more natural out on the left, I think that will probably see him stay out there. Maeda has played out on the right a few times, I'd probably be looking to play him. And I think Ian Atchell, you've got to try and just keep getting up to speed. They still showed flashes on Sunday, linking up play, so I wouldn't be against that being my front three. And then you've obviously got like Yang and Balquisha, James Forrest, whoever, to bring off the bench. But I just can't call it. It's much like the league phase as a whole. I really can't see how this game goes. We could get beat 3-0, we could win 3-0. I'd like to think we'll go out and get a positive result, but I'm not overly confident of it. So I think I'll err on the side of caution and go for a 1-each draw. I think that the two sides will probably be evenly matched. I know like they've got home advantage, it might get them over the line, but I think that it'd be good if we could go there, get something on the board. And then I think the next game we play will be at home to Braga, so it just gives you then that chance to build on that at Celtic Park. But for that one on Wednesday, I'll go for 1-each, and I'll say that Kelechi, Ian Atchell, will get the goal for Celtic, and we'll start the campaign off with a draw in Belgrade. That'll be my prediction. If you're listening or watching this before that game, drop us a wee comment what you think the score's going to be. We'll probably be on after that to discuss the performance, hopefully discuss a victory against Red Star Belgrade, and we'll also preview the Hibs game on Saturday, and if there's anything else off the field to discuss, we'll discuss that as well. But that'll probably be a Thursday for you, so keep an eye out, make sure you're subscribed, and wherever you're listening, leave us a wee review or rate us 5-star if you're enjoying the content so far. It has been a good season for us in terms of downloads, and hopefully it keeps going like that if you are enjoying the show. But I will speak to you later in the week. As I say, look out for that new episode on Thursday, and we'll speak to you then. Hail, hail.